Take this life-saving pill, proudly made by a Canadian company. Cost for a Canadian consumer? About $130 a year. But this drug's journey across the ocean reveals something as potent as the pill itself. In New Zealand, the very same pills cost about $10 a year. So why do we pay 1,200% more?
New Zealand. Like Canada, it has rugged terrain, natural beauty, and its own fearless national sport. But unlike Canadians, New Zealanders drive and walk on the left-hand side. And there's something else that might well shock a visiting Canuck. New Zealand has managed to do something astonishing about out-of-control drug prices. No matter what the prescription, the cost here is $5. You heard that correctly. Just $5. In Canada, drug prices keep going up, and no one seems to know what to do about it. Well, if there are answers to be found, they could be here, 14,000 kilometers away, in New Zealand, where a tiny country with a population 1/10 that of Canada has somehow found a way to take on the global giants of the pharmaceutical industry. And when? To discover how the Kiwis have done that, our first stop is New Zealand's capital city, Wellington.
We believe that patients should be able to access healthcare, pharmaceuticals, no matter where you are in New Zealand, no matter who you are in New Zealand.
Stefan Krause heads up the New Zealand government's pharmaceutical management agency called Pharmac. Established about 25 years ago to beat back prices when people here were drowning in a rising tide of drug costs. Stefan Krause says the industry fought back hard.
Well, it was very, very strongly opposed at the outset. At one part of Pharmac's early history, we had more court cases than we had staff. So,
Literally?
Literally.
More lawsuits than people?
Yes, I think there were 17 or so law cases at the outset and 15 staff members.
It was a brutal battle, but New Zealand stood its ground, and the drug companies ultimately gave in. So here's how it works. Drug companies with similar products compete against each other by offering lower and lower prices until Pharmac and its team of medical experts decides there's enough evidence that a drug works and the price is worth it. The best drugs at the cheapest prices win. You may not believe what you're about to hear, but Pharmac says medication manufacturers routinely cut their prices by up to 99%. The result is that today New Zealanders get some of the lowest drug prices in the world and can afford to cover a selection of medications for everyone, while Canada cannot. Consider this. The Fifth Estate analyzed the cost of 7 generic drugs for sale in both Canada and New Zealand. For every dollar Canada spends on those drugs, the New Zealand government spends just 11.5 cents. One example, a popular blood pressure treatment manufactured by the largest Canadian drug company, Apotex, and sold in New Zealand. Back home in Canada, a year's supply costs $130. Here, Pharmac pays just $10. We set out to learn how the average Kiwi here in Auckland feels about their pharmacare system and how it stacks up against ours. Excuse me, sir. I work for the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation.
Oh, you're selling something?
You are a New Zealander.
I am a Kiwi.
Oh, well, the fact we only have to pay $5 a prescription is pretty good.
I think we're pretty lucky.
This is a common cholesterol treatment. Pharmac pays $18.20 for a year's worth of it.
Yes.
All right, now in Canada,
Yeah.
$142.35.
Wow. So what's happening in Canada?
There's no pharmacy care. The city of Hamilton is inland and home to one of New Zealand's biggest hospitals. Here we find Dr. Nigel Murray, who now heads the country's largest health authority and sits on the Pharmac board. But for 7 years, this native New Zealander ran one of the major healthcare networks in British Columbia. Are Canadians paying prices which are too high?
I believe they are. Having worked in both countries, and I re-emphasize what a great system the Canadian system is, but I believe that the citizens of Canada could get a better deal.
According to Dr. Murray, thanks to Pharmac and its bargaining power, he's got more money to put towards other essential services.
Our cost growth has stabilized and flattened right out. So over that period of time, that's worth hundreds of millions, which is all money that could be redeployed back into the healthcare system, either to buy the next generation of pharmaceuticals, or buy more hip operations, or provide more mental health services to our communities.
Of course, no healthcare system is perfect. Drugs may effectively be free in New Zealand, but not every drug can be funded by Pharmac. In fact, a report in 2015 found that New Zealand trails 18 other Western nations in speedy access to new medications. We catch up with New Zealand drug industry spokesperson Graham Jarvis, who says seriously ill Kiwis may pay the price for that lack of innovation.
To what extent do you think New Zealanders are happy with the system they've got today?
It depends on who one talks to. I think patients and their families are certainly aware and quite concerned about some of the outcomes that they're seeing as a result of the system that operates in New Zealand in terms of lack of access to the innovative medicines that really do make a difference to outcomes.
But Pharmac CEO Krause says that misses the point.
We're not actually looking and saying a measure of success is getting access to everything that's possibly available as soon as it's possibly available. We want to know, did we make the best choices? We want to know, did we have a system that enabled patients to get the treatments that were funded equitably, no matter who you are or where you are?
Several hours' drive to the north is New Zealand's eastern coast, home to health activist Linda Williams.
I think that New Zealanders were lucky. For a small country with a small population, it has been vital that we had a way of being able to keep the cost of our drugs affordable.
She's fought alongside Pharmac for years, but her long-held beliefs would be put to the test when Linda Williams herself was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, given not long to live. There is a drug that potentially could extend Linda's life, but with a hefty price, not funded by New Zealand's Pharmac.
And I wasn't willing to go there, given that I had terminal cancer.
So $30,000 not covered by Pharmac?
Not covered by Pharmac, because it was a drug that hadn't been approved by Pharmac for funding. And I accepted that. There wasn't a moment where I thought, that's not fair.
And incredibly, to one degree or other, almost everyone in New Zealand to whom we spoke seemed satisfied with their drug prices, a sentiment seldom heard in Canada.
Price is the issue. Price is the issue here. Diabetes treatment. A year's worth $14.60. In Canada, $58.40. This is a brand name cancer treatment. For you to get it at a pharmacy, it'd cost $5. In Canada, is $85,480.
That's insane.
That's mental.
Yeah.
We take it for granted, I guess.
When you think of Canadians in Canada, I would have thought of a little bit more social services.
The Canadians have to come here. We have plenty of space in this country. We need nice people.
In some ways, I just can't see why you haven't got a Pharmac.